Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuramitanjena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaye Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Pravajantam Hanupeta Apeta Krityam Rapayano Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tan Maitaya Taravo Binedus Tam Sarvabhutam Hridayam Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayamudinayat Bhaktya Vihina Parada Lakshai Kiptastakamari Tarangamadye Kripa Maitvam. Oh, who is this from?
That's Gurudev.
Gurudev, great. Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapanda Brinde Namaste Charanada Vindam Tave Vasmi Najivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayanam Charanandike Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So we're going to begin by offering our most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved Gurus, unto Sri Guru Pada Padma Nityalita Bhavishta, Om Vishnu Padasto, Tatsat Sri Srimad Abhayacharya Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and unto Sri Guru Pada Padma Nityalita Bhavishta, Om Vishnu Padasto, Tatsat Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, unto our exalted Rupanuga Guru Varga, all the assembled Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis. So, in 1 week, we're going to be celebrating the appearance day of Sri Advaita Acharya. Now, we've already read a few, and then after that, some days later, not too many days later, it's going to be Nityananda Prabhu. But we've already read 3 chapters that involve Nityananda Prabhu from Chaitanya Bhagavat. So I wanted to read from Chaitanya Caritamrita in this week the glories of Advaita Acharya, right? And so that's in the 6th chapter. And there's a little, summary of the chapter that Srila Prabhupada puts in. And I believe he paraphrased or took the same information that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave in his commentary, or Srila Saraswati Pradap. I'm not sure. But anyway, it's here in Srila Prabhupada's own words. So, we get an overview now of the chapter. I'm just going to read it. The truth of Advaita Acharya has been described in 2 verses. It is said that material nature has 2 features, namely the material cause and the efficient cause. The efficient causal activities are caused by Mahavishnu, and the material causal activities are caused by another form of Mahavishnu known as Advaita. That Advaita, the superintendent of the cosmic manifestation, has descended in the form of Advaita Acharya to associate with Lord Chaitanya. When he is addressed as the servitor of Lord Chaitanya, his glories are magnified, because unless one is invigorated by this mentality of servitorship, one cannot understand the mellows derived from devotional service to the Supreme Lord Krishna. Very important sentence, right? That Advaita Acharya, incarnation of Mahavishnu, but even he is glorified, his glories are magnified by his devotional mentality, right? And we also know that Nityananda Prabhu also has that devotional mentality, which magnifies his glories as well. So why are we so resistant to developing the mood of devotion? right? We fight against it. Even if we want it somewhere blooming, trying to get out in our hearts, the material mind, the material intelligence, the senses are fighting against it. But it's so glorious that even Advaita Acharya dances with joy, calling himself a servant of Lord Chaitanya. And he begins by saying, I'm just going to give a quick description, efficient and material cause. In this case, the efficient cause is the desire of Mahavishnu. Krishna is the original possessor of desire. He has his Icha Shakti. And by that, his Shakti creates the entire spiritual realm. His own Goloka Vrindavan and Braj, and then all the expansions from that. But that same desire is carried in another form, in Mahavishnu, to create the material universes. But Mahavishnu does not directly connect with the material universes, but he transmits his desire in the form of his glance, and that glance, the personification of that glance, is known as Shambhu, a form of Sadashiv, who acts as the instigator of the creation of the material universe, right? And so he carries the ingredients, right, the material causal ingredients, and the time factor, and injects them into the dormant Pradhan, who is his own Shakti, Parvati, and by that the material creation comes. So Shiva and Parvati are a semblance of Mahavishnu and Ramadevi, who are expansions of Lakshmi and Narayan, who are expansions of Radha and Krishna. So, text 1. Bande tam Srimad Advaita Chayam Adbhuta Cheshtitam Yasya Prasada Dagyopi Tad Sarupam Nirupayat. I offer my respectful obeisance to Sri Advaita Acharya, whose activities are all wonderful. By his mercy, even a foolish person can describe his characteristics. Right, and there's something else about Advaita, which we'll probably hear, but he's the one who called Mahaprabhu here. So this special expansion of Advaita is responsible for the creation, right? And because he's responsible for it, he's concerned about the welfare of the living entities, the degradation in the age of Kali, and he called Mahaprabhu. And so by his mercy, the Advaita of Advaita Acharya, even a foolish person can describe his characteristics. Krishnadas Kaviraj is speaking in great humility here. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhaktivinoda. All glories to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to Lord Nityananda. All glories to Advaita Acharya. And all glories to all the devotees of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Panchashloke kahila Sri Nityananda Tattva Shloka Dvaihe kahi Advaita Acharya Mahatva. In 5 verses, I have described the principle of Lord Nityananda. Then in the following 2 verses, I describe the glories of Sri Advaita Acharya. So he's talking about the Mangalacharana in the very beginning of the Adi Lila, establishing the glories of Mahaprabhu, of the Gurus, right, of Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya. So now he's going to recite those verses. Mahavishnu Jagat Karta Mayaya Srijatada Tasya Vatara Evayam Advaita Acharya Ishvara. Lord Advaita Acharya is the incarnation of Mahavishnu, whose main function is to create the cosmic world through the actions of Maya. Advaitam Harina Advaitad Acharyam Bhakti Shangshanat Bhaktavataram Isham Tam Advaita Acharyam Ashraye. Because he is non-different from Hari, the Supreme Lord, he is called Advaita. And because he propagates the cult of devotion, he is called Acharya. He is the Lord and the incarnation of the Lord's devotee. Therefore, I take shelter of him. Okay. Now he's going to explain. The whole rest of the chapter is Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explaining these two verses. Shall we hear these two verses once more, just to set the stage? Lord Advaita Acharya is the incarnation of Mahavishnu, whose main function is to create the cosmic world through the actions of Maya. Because he is non-different from Hari, the Supreme Lord, he is called Advaita. And because he propagates the cult of devotion, he is called Acharya. He is the Lord and the incarnation of the Lord's devotee. Therefore, I take shelter of him. Beautiful, beautiful verses, Sanskrit verses. So now, Krishnadas Kaviraj is going to elaborate. Advaita Acharya Gosani Sakshat Ishvara Yanhara Mahima Nahe Jivera Gochara. Sri Advaita Acharya is indeed directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. His glory is beyond the conception of ordinary living beings. Mahavishnu Srishti Karena Jagad Adhikarya Tanra Avatara Sakshat Advaita Acharya. Mahavishnu performs all the functions for the creation of the universes. Sri Advaita Acharya is his direct incarnation. So Mahavishnu is the origin of all of this, right? Performing all the functions directly and through his incarnation, Advaita Acharya. Now we're going to get the details. Now this gets complicated. So just, hear it. Let's stick with it. There's so many other sources to try to pull some understanding from this. Difficult to understand, but by straining and striving and praying, we strengthen our mind, we strengthen our heart, and strengthen our faith. Because this bhakti, faith in God through the Vaishnava conceptions, is very scientific, very detailed, very elaborate. There are no gaps here, right? And when you hear this and you think, oh, I don't understand it, it's not being explained, it is being explained, but we are sadly lacking in broader knowledge of Bhagavatam, Puranic literatures, Prabha Samhita, all these texts that technically explain this process of creation and the role of the Lord in all of that. So, Mahavishnu performs all the functions for the creation of the universes. Sri Advaita Acharya is his direct incarnation. Ye Purusha Srishti Stiti Karena Mayaya Ananta Brahmananda Srishti Karena Lilaya. We keep hearing this word Srishti, means creation, right? And Stiti, maintenance. Karena performs these. And the translation for that is, that Purusha, meaning Mahavishnu, creates and maintains with his external energy. He creates innumerable universes in his pastimes. So Mahavishnu is not directly doing this, he's doing this through his energy. And that external energy is an expansion of his own internal energy, his own consort. There's Mahavishnu and Rama Devi, and this Advaita Acharya, this special form, and is an incarnation of Mahavishnu. The external energy, Mahamaya, is a special form of Rama Devi that can touch and interact and perform the functions required for the creation of the material universes. And the imprisonment of us, the conditioned souls. So, Ichaya Anantamurti Karena Prakash eka murti karena brahmande pravesha. By his will, he manifests himself in unlimited forms, in which he enters each and every universe. This is Mahavishnu. So, Ichaya means desire. Ichaya means by his will. Anantamurti, unlimited forms. Karena, again, he does. Right? Prakash, manifestations. What does that mean? By his will, he manifests himself in unlimited forms in which he enters each and every universe. Every universe being created by Mahavishnu is inhabited by a special form of Mahavishnu, an expansion, Garbhodakshay Vishnu. There are three Purusha avatars. There's Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and Kshirodakshay Vishnu. Kshirodakshay Vishnu is the Paramatma. He has his form, original form, in a spiritual planet within every universe, on the ocean of milk. It's he to whom Lord Brahma goes and prays when there's trouble. And Garbhodakshay Vishnu is he who sits at the bottom of the universe, on the lower half, on the Garbhodak ocean, and from whom Lord Brahma comes. He is the super soul of every universe, and from him, Kshirodakshay Vishnu comes, who is the super soul within the heart of every living entity and within every atom. So, he manifests himself in unlimited forms, and he enters each and every universe. Se Purushera Anksa Advaita Nahi Kichu Beda Sharira Visheshatanra Nahi Kavicheda. Sri Advaita Acharya is a plenary part of that Purusha, and so it's not different from him. Indeed, Sri Advaita Acharya is not separate, but it's another form of that Purusha. So plenary means complete. When they say plenary portion, it means a complete, it's endowed with all the potency and quality of that original. Sahaya Karena Tanra La Iya Pradhan Koti Brahmananda Karena Ichaya Nirman. He, Advaita Acharya, helps in the pastimes of the Purush, with whose material energy and by whose will he creates innumerable universes. Okay, so here's where it gets a little difficult to understand. Advaita Acharya is sometimes described as Mahavishnu, expansion of Mahavishnu directly, non-different, and sometimes referred to as this Shiva form. Sometimes Sadashiva, sometimes Shambhu. So there's going to be a big purport here on this next verse. Jagat Mangala Advaita Mangala Gunadam Mangala Charitra Sada Mangala Yanranam. Being a reservoir of all auspicious attributes, Sri Advaita Acharya is all auspicious for the world. His characteristics, activities, and name are always auspicious. Completely transcendental. Characteristics, activities, and name. Always auspicious, right? Now there's let's see, it's going to be a fairly long purport here. So, Srila Prabhupada explains. Sri Advaita Prabhu, who is an incarnation of Mahavishnu, is an acharya or teacher. Okay, so we want to absorb as much of this as we can because we're trying to develop great faith, respect, honor, service mood towards Advaita Acharya. The beautiful Chaitanya Bhagavat describes the loving feelings that all the associates of Mahaprabhu have for Advaita Acharya. In the pastimes of Mahaprabhu, he is the senior most among the Vaishnavas. And before the appearance of Mahaprabhu is caring for them, teaching, protecting them, right? And then when Mahaprabhu does come with his brother, older brother Vishwarup, he moves and takes up residence very close to Mahaprabhu and becomes the teacher of Vishwarup, right? And we just finished reading in the pastime of Jaghai and Madhai how close he is with Nityananda Prabhu and their water sports and their arguments and their loving quarrels. All auspicious, characteristics, activities, and name. We greatly honor and love Advaita Acharya. And you know, Srila Prabhupada, our Gurudev, he had a pastime when he was still a householder. He would travel throughout India a great deal and his business, right? Because he had a factory where he was manufacturing medicines. Also had a store. And whenever he would come to Calcutta, he would also go to Navadvip. And when he went to Navadvip, he would go to Shantipur, to the place of Advaita Acharya. And there, he would sit and chant in the back. The Pujari there, over the years, became friendly with him, knew about him. They became friends. And then he didn't see him for some years. After Srila Prabhupada had left his household life and business, then he lived in Vrindavan for over 10 years. And then one day, in 1965, he saw a sannyasi in the back of that same temple chanting and weeping. And he recognized him as that same householder that used to come and chant in the back and weep. And now he was a sannyasi. And they talked again. Oh, my friend, I've not seen you for so long. What's happening? Why are you here? And he said, I've come here now, and I would come here before because my spiritual master gave me an impossible task, to go to the West and preach the mission of Mahaprabhu. And while I was a householder, I used to come here and pray, because this is the place where Nityananda, Mahaprabhu, and Advaita Acharya would come and discuss confidentially about the Sankirtan movement and the future of it. Because Mahaprabhu, he also gave instructions to Nityananda to travel and preach, and who knows what kind of confidential instructions they had about all of this. We can't even imagine. But Srila Prabhupada says they would come here and discuss it. Because Advaita Acharya, that's his task, right? He's the overseer, the protector of the universe. And now I have come today because tomorrow I am embarking on this journey, right? And I'm praying to Advaita Acharya and to Nityananda and to Mahaprabhu to give me strength and success in my mission, right? Steadfastness, fortitude. So while we're hearing all this week about Advaita Acharya, we can embrace the idea of praying to him, because Mahaprabhu, he didn't appear alone. He appeared with his Panchatattva, the complete manifestation of himself. His first expansion, his incarnation, his internal potency, right? And his great devotees. All are worshipable. And all we're dependent and seeking guidance from all of them. We want to serve all of them. So, again, the purport. Sri Advaita Prabhu, who is incarnation of Mahavishnu, is an Acharya or teacher. All his activities and all the other activities of Vishnu are auspicious. Anyone who can view the all-auspiciousness in the pastimes of Lord Vishnu also becomes auspicious simultaneously. In other words, sometimes we see the pastimes of the Lord, we may or may not understand them. And from our limited material perspective, we may find fault. Why is he doing this? If I was God, I wouldn't do it. There can't be God. If there was God, there'd be no suffering in this world. You know, we see so much suffering and injustice and evil. This is God's fault. Right? But not. No. This is our fault. This is our playground he's given us. This is the prison we've decided to come to, and there are rules. And when you follow the rules, you can get a relatively comfortable position. And when you break the rules, you have to suffer. Anyone who's suffering in this world is because they're rule breakers. But God himself is not under the moral constraints and the rules of religiosity and material law, because he's completely outside of it. Whenever he appears, he's performing activities only for the benefit, upliftment, inspiration of the living entities. And you have to be educated to appreciate and see that. And this is the big thing that religions wrestle with. They have a very hard time explaining that, right? But for us, it's not so hard. Therefore, so anyone who can view the all-auspiciousness in the pastimes of Lord Vishnu also becomes auspicious simultaneously. Therefore, since Lord Vishnu is the fountainhead of auspiciousness, anyone who is attracted by the devotional service of Lord Vishnu can render the greatest service to human society. Rejected persons of the material world who refuse to understand pure devotional service as the eternal function of the living entities and as actual liberation of the living being from the conditioned life become bereft of all devotional service because of their poor fund of knowledge. Right, in other words, when you're performing devotional service, you're already liberated. That which yogis aspire for tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of years, multiple lifetimes of austerity and vows of silence are experienced by one who's practicing devotion, even in the neophyte stage. Liberation is there. And the question is then, why do we have this body and all this karma? Well, one who's chanted Namabhas, they don't have karma. And Krishna gives us this body and difficulty because it's understood that we've probably performed devotion in the past and become freed from the majority, if not all, of prarabdha karma. But we're given this condition due to our association for millennia and innumerable lifetimes to allow us to continue to practice bhakti so that we can perfect it. If you just take liberation, which is very insignificant, right, then what have you got? Nothing. You're just in that impersonal Brahman condition, which is very unhappy for the devotees. So we gladly accept a little struggle and difficulty in a material body because it makes us strive for that which is so much more beautiful and more grand. Not the impersonal liberation, but to enter into the Vaikuntha realm. And not even the realm of what we know of Vaikuntha, the Lakshmi Narayan realm, but the realm of Goloka Vrindavan. And not even Dwarka, but Braj. So, those who refuse to understand pure devotion as the eternal function of the living entities and as actual liberation of the living being from conditioned life become bereft of all devotional service because of their poor fund of knowledge. That's why we're studying this, right? We don't want a poor fund of knowledge. Sambandha Tattva increases our faith, gives us guidance how to perform this bhajan, why to do it. In the teachings of Advaita Prabhu, there is no question of furtive activities or impersonal liberation. Same principle explained in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, because some of the contemporary persons at the time of Advaita misunderstood some of his teachings and thought he was teaching impersonalism, not in any way, shape, or form. But they were ineligible for bhakti, so this idea blossomed in their hearts. Ineligible in the sense that they had no attraction or desire. Every living entity is eligible for bhakti because it's dormant in the heart, nitya siddhasya, in the heart of every living being. What is that? Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhava sasadanabhida nitya siddhasya bhavasya prakritam hridi sadyata. It's dormant in everyone's heart, and by the practice of bhakti, it can be awakened. But those who have no attraction for that, they don't get that awakening. They are allowed to remain attracted to fruitive work and impersonal goals. So, Bewildered by the spell of the material energy, however, persons who could not understand that Advaita Prabhu is non-different from Vishnu wanted to follow him with their impersonal conceptions. The attempt of Advaita Prabhu to punish them is also auspicious. Lord Vishnu and his activities can bestow all good fortune, directly and indirectly. In other words, being favored by Lord Vishnu and being punished by Lord Vishnu are one and the same because all the activities of Vishnu are absolute. So the idea of punishment doesn't seem the same, but by punishing sinful persons, he's relieving them from the subsequent reaction that they would have to experience and purifying their heart so at some future point they may come to devotion. Just like a parent may punish the child for the child's welfare, right? That has to be understood. Krishna is our greatest well-wisher. According to some, Mangala was another name of Advaita Prabhu. As the causal incarnation or Lord Vishnu's incarnation for a particular occasion, he is the supply agent or ingredient in material nature. However, he is never to be considered material. All his activities are spiritual. Anyone who hears about and glorifies him becomes glorified himself. For such activities free one from all kinds of misfortune. One should not invest any material contamination or impersonalism in the Vishnu form. Everyone should try to understand the real identity of Lord Vishnu, for by such knowledge one can attain the highest stage of perfection. So in that short sequence of verses, he is describing that, giving the warning against persons like the Panchopasakas who worship the form of Vishnu as a temporary means to attain impersonal liberation. They don't think that the form of Vishnu is eternally spiritual. They think he manifests to give us something to focus on, to withdraw our senses and attachment and attraction to all the inferior objects of sense enjoyment. And by that, then we can free ourselves, and then when we become completely free from sense attraction and false ego, then we can merge into the impersonal absolute. That's a misfortune. One should not invest any material contamination or impersonalism in the Vishnu form. Now, the next verse, Koti Anksa, Koti Shakti, Koti Avatar, Etalanya Srijay Purusha, Sakala Sangsar. Mahavishnu creates the entire material world with millions of his parts, energies, and incarnations. Okay, now that leads us to this next verse, which we can't do now because there's huge purport. This is where you better get a good night's rest before tomorrow's class, because this is all philosophy, technical stuff. This is the verse. Maya yache dui angsa nimita upadan, Maya nimita hetu upadan pradhan, Purusha Ishvara aiche dvimurti haya, Vishva srishti kare nimita upadana lanya. Just as the external energy consists of two parts, the efficient cause, nimita, and the material cause, upadan, Maya being the efficient cause, and pradhan, the material cause, so Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, assumes two forms to create the material world with the efficient and material causes. So what gets confusing in that is that there are two nimittas and upadans. The original cause, the desire of Mahavishnu, and the ingredients that he sends for the creation through Advaita, and then Mahamaya herself, who is manifest all these material ingredients. The desire of Lord Vishnu, carried by Advaita, is injected into Mahamaya. He has the desire, she fulfills the desire. His desire becomes her desire. And then she becomes the agent of creation. And anyway, that's going to be explained in this, let's see. In the book, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 22 pages. In the Kindle form, it's only 11 pages because they're side by side. Any rate, that will be fun. It might take us a few days to go through this purport. But it's good. We used to do this, and then we would read the Brahma Samhita also about Sadashiv and Mahavishnu, and then we'd read the Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 5th canto, other things, as much as we could, all these different sources to try to figure this out, because it's very complicated, right? You have to study this for years, and also chant and pray and serve, right? So that understanding gradually comes. I'm not a big scholar, right? So I'm struggling like you. And I have no realization, so I'm only repeating. I'm the parrot, but not like the Shuka Dave parrot who recites with realization. But as long as we repeat only what we've heard, then it's okay. And by that process of description, realization comes into the heart. It's good to hear and it's good to speak. And so then tomorrow we will proceed from there. And offering our deep, deep obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, who translated this and took so much care to explain these extraordinarily technical conceptions. And to Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj, who gave us opportunity for further understanding, to all the Vaishnavas who have helped us, assisted us, and we pray will continue to do so. May we be imbued with the same enthusiasm for service to Mahaprabhu and all his associates, embodied and transmitted by the glorious Advaita Acharya. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.